Good morning. My name is Daniel Williams. No, it's press. Good morning. My name is Daniel Williams. This presentation is for Business 430 for Business Ethics under Professor Patrick Murphy. Today, we'll be discussing a case that happened at Mormon University. It took place in 2015, and what it does, it outlines what can happen if an honor code is not in the benefit of the students. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now, I'll be passing out a flash drive with this presentation to you all later on so you can reference the article. I pulled this article from the New York Times. It actually did make national headlines, but this is a specific article which piqued my interest of what could happen at a university whose honor code is not for the students. And without further ado, let's begin. So, what exactly is an honor code? The concept of this honor code was first developed by a university by the name of William and Mary University in the late 1700s. Now, this university, they aim to dictate the standards of ethical conduct for its student body and its student community. Now, what exactly does that mean? So, honor codes are set the standard for academic integrity, that implements self-regulation, guidelines, submitting issues that involve cheating, misrepresentation, oftentimes stealing as well. The university, William and Mary, wanted to set up parameters and also a system of self-regulation between the interaction of the peers. By doing this, they will ensure, or they thought to ensure, a code of conduct within the students that help them and holds them to date at a higher standard that they would like to have as they set off into the community after graduation. Now, these honor codes, this usually has a special committee, an office located at the university or institution that help regulate these guidelines if need be. At our college, we have a Title IX office which regulates our honor code. So some universities will have both their honor code committee and their Title IX committee in the same office. We'll see later on how that caused problems for this Mormon university. Now, before I begin talking about the case, I want to discuss the value system that BYU actually has. They're a university founded on the principles of a church sect called Latter-day Saints Church. This Latter-day Saints Church, LDS for short, come from the Mormon sect university. They have a set of guidelines and principles that they must live throughout their daily lives that govern themselves. BYU also sets themselves in partnership with these values. Now, just to read off a couple, we have off the Latter-day website. These are the 13 values written by a man named Joseph in 1863 that the church goes by. Some of these values is that they believe in the God, the Father, His Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost. Leaders and teachers in the church must be chosen and ordained by priesthood power. So there's a hierarchy system in this. The Bible and the Book of Mormon are both divinely revealed scriptures. In worshiping God to our own dictates and allowing others to do likewise. This is the recruiting process and how they begin to, This is how they begin to involve others into their beautiful religion. The one thing I do want to highlight is the 13th principle, in which we're talking about this case in general. This principle states that Mormons are followers of the Latter-day Saints Church must be honest, true, chaste, benevolent, virtuous, and doing good things ultimate. This value is actually going to play a key part later on in the presentation. So let's look at what happened at BYU. First of all, BYU is founded, supported, and guided by the Church of Jesus Christ, by the LDS. The case involves an unfortunate situation, unfortunate scenario that happens in our everyday community now. A young lady named Maddie Burney exposed the honor code at BYU system when she reported her rape case to local police department. This rape actually happened off-site. at an off-campus apartment. Now, the issue with this is that the deputy knew a local staffman at BYU. The deputy leaked her story to the campus. Usually what happens at this campus is that young rape victims can't go to the school administration, and due to their honor code doesn't allow them, they're fearful of their honor code due to regulations that are put into place. Now, after the deputy leaked their story, the honor code's office, launched an investigation, and this actually blocked young Miss Barney from enrolling into her classes and also enrolling to the next semester classes. So, what is BYU's honor code? In a gist, BYU's honor code was first developed by the students in 1948. They now share with all the church schools around the area. It's actually titled the Church Educational System Honor Code. It is commitment to conduct and emphasize the integrity, character development, and spiritual, physical, and social well-being of all the students. These standards of conduct include a commitment to reserve sexual relationships for marriage. It's very important in this community. Now, I'm gonna actually pull up Brigham Young's honor code. I found this on the school's website. You can look it up as well. I want to point out a few things in this honor code. Like most honor codes, they say, we believe to be honest, true, chaste, benevolent, virtuous, and doing all good things to men. That's pulled directly from the LDS Church. Now, they want to, there is anything virtuous, lovely, or good report, or praiseworthy. We seek after these things. This is the 13th article of faith that I pulled out. This is BYU's interpretation of the LDS value system. Be honest, live a chaste, virtuous life. Respect others, and participate regularly in church service. These are a few things that are mandated by the student government. But what I want to highlight is live a chaste and virtuous life. If you violate any of these values that the school believes in, you'll be found guilty of violating these causes, and you will be put on either academic probation or be expelled from the school. What happens is that most students found in these circumstances can't depend on their school system in order to help them out during these very difficult times. So, the actual case. Miss Maddie Barney was at an off-campus apartment in February 2015 where she was unfortunately raped by a young lad who she found online. They began chatting. The sex was at first consensual, and then she decided that she didn't want to do it. Now, BYU was then later notified by the local police department. This is also a breach of conduct right here. Maddie did not go to the school officials first. Maddie first went to the police department. The story was leaked. Now, Barney was later investigated by their honor code office at BYU, and under investigation and pending investigation, Barney was unable to register for any classes. She was unable to register for classes for the next semester. She was also unable to withdraw from her current classes. In April 2016, at a public forum talking about rape on the school campus, just like we hold forums at the Den, Barney explained that the school mishandling of rape incidents did not allow students the freedom or give students the confidence in order to actually talk about their fears. This was the hammer on the nail. Miss Barney started a revolution that shook up foundations across the United States. She would speak at a public forum discussing rape on college campuses, confessing her views and her actual experience. Her bravery is actually associated with 50 current and former students from BYU coming up and also explaining their incidents of what happened at the school university. So, the school's honor code is the reason why most of these stories never saw the day of light. And in order to get a better sense of Miss Maddie Barney, I'm just going to play a quick short video with an ABC interview.
We were in the police station at Provo Police, and I was just sobbing that I could not report because I knew that BYU was going to find out.
Maddie says the officer assured her the police wouldn't tell BYU, so she worked up the courage to file a police report against Nasiru Saidu, accusing him of rape. He has pled not guilty. She thought she was going on a date with a young single guy.
He lied about his age and marital status. He lied about everything, his name.
Turns out, Saidu was a married 39-year-old youth soccer coach. She says in the post-traumatic weeks that followed, her high grade point average began slipping.
Some days you have panic attacks and you can't breathe, and some nights you have nightmares.
But despite those assurances of privacy from police, BYU got a copy of Maddie's rape report. Maddie says she soon found herself answering questions from BYU's Title IX investigator.
I don't recall, breaking the honor code. And she goes, well, we have your police report. And I go, excuse me? Like, how did you get that?
It was leaked to BYU by a sheriff's deputy. Across the country, Title IX offices are supposed to be of service to rape survivors.
We're not concerned about the minor alcohol violation. We are not concerned about the fact that you had a boy in your room.
Brett Sokolow is a national consultant on Title IX issues.
We as an institution feel ethically and legally obligated to do everything we can to help you in that situation.
Instead, Maddie says, the BYU Title IX officer seemed more interested in her potential honor code violations.
Did they in any way try to help you stay in school?
They told me that they could not give me the services that they would provide a rape victim because they could not prove that I had been raped.
We reached out to Brigham Young, and they told us when a student reports a sexual assault, the primary focus is on the victim's safety and well-being under the Title IX policy. A report of sexual assault would always be referred to the BYU Title IX office, not to the Honor Code office. In a taped statement by BYU, President Kevin Worthen says the university is studying the relationship between their Title IX office and their Honor Code office.
We recognize that there's some tension between those two, that there are some victims of sexual assault who already may feel like they don't want to come in, and that sometimes the fear of what's going to happen may keep them from coming in. What we want to do is minimize that as much as possible.
Maddie says she was told if she didn't cooperate with the Honor Code investigation, she'd be barred from registering for future classes.
Title IX spoke as if they were the Honor Code. She said to me, if you don't let us investigate this, then we're going to pass this information along to the Honor Code office. It felt like blackmail.
Maddie has since launched an online petition demanding that BYU offer amnesty from Honor Code infractions when students report sexual assault.
I don't understand why BYU isn't taking a step back and saying, it's much better to keep a young woman who's a victim in school than let her rapist walk around.
If you don't have an official policy of amnesty, then victims may hesitate to come forward because the possibility that they could be subject to discipline creates a chilling effect on reporting.
Advocates say the way BYU's Honor Code is enforced makes an already painful ordeal that much more excruciating.
Rape kits are really tough to go through.
Yeah, it was really traumatic having to be naked in front of someone again, having them take pictures of all your injuries.
And yet, less than 40% of rape kits collected in Utah actually get sent to the crime lab, according to a study by BYU professor Julie Valentine, who feels it's putting women in jeopardy.
I think that is a huge public safety concern. We're finding, as more and more kits are tested, that we're identifying serial rapists. Many times, these are the undetected rapists in our community.
In fact, Margot's rapist was accused a decade earlier of what a source close to the case characterizes as a similar assault, although that accusation was dropped.
I read the police report 10 years later, and it was almost word for word, like what he did to me. So it just makes me think how many girls were there between me and her.
Reporting sexual assault also gives victims the access to resources for therapy, the kind of support that Maddie Barney says has been her lifeline.
And that's what worries me about, people feeling like they can't report. You're not being able to talk about what happened. Then how are you going to get help? And BYU is preventing women from getting help for this. They're not looking at the bigger picture.
Margot Crandall's rapist was convicted. His sentence, 5 years to life in prison.
So, what came out of this? Along with Margie Robbie and a couple of her peers, they created a doctrine. They investigated the incidents that happened over the past 50 years at BYU, and they created what they call a 23-step solution. It's actually a very brilliant piece of work. The solution outlined 4 categories in which the university can hold us up to a higher standard in their office, their value system, etc. These are some of the rules, some of the steps that the students came up with. Some of them is by some of the steps in order to ensure that this doesn't happen in future incidents is creating a physical space to separate the Title IX office and the Honor Code office. Another step is now Title IX will officially now question their victims, shifting away from the Honor Code office. This creates an environment of implicit bias. This allows the students to speak freely without the chance of being judged or misappropriated. The school will also provide additional budget for the Title IX office and the Honor Code office to keep up to date standards and regulations that help ensure the quality that these students go through. So, the students came up with a very brilliant way of how to solve the problem. They investigated the situations past 50 years and outlined 23 steps in order to fix it. If you were in the regulations' hands, if you were part of the educational system, what would you do to impose new rules to ensure that these incidents won't happen again? How would you handle future situations like BYU had? How would you protect the identity of victims? By also spreading the word. What codes would you change in your school in order to ensure that this does not happen again? These are some things we still have to discuss and think about as we move forward into this new era of culture. So the conclusion, what actually happens in this, Maggie? Well, the school actually did adopt an amnesty clause during an investigation. If you are found to have sex or been raped, the school can now not punish you for these incidences or for even reporting sexual misconduct. Now, Ms. Barney did end up finishing her scholastic year, but she did not return for the next year at BYU. Now we talk a lot about the 7 Lindas in this class. Miss Linda Fisher Thornton's book, The 7 Lindas, The Learning Principles of Ethical Leadership, she outlines 7 principles in which businesses need to guide themselves as they navigate through this environment. The 7 principles are as such: profits, law, character, morale, community, and the greater good. Profits, the university needs to make money off these students, plain and simple. It costs $9,000 for an in-state tuition to go to BYU, so their duty is to ensure the safety and comfortability of this community. They need to enact laws and regulations in order to doctrine these students. The law, at the time, was an inefficient system. They had the Honor Code system. Also, they had the Honor Code office and the Title IX office congruent with each other. This creates a bias. This doesn't allow for efficient practice among the university. The character morale, obviously in Utah, about 62% of the population are Mormon. These schools are essentially feeder schools for the Mormon community, which is fine. They want to uphold their values and their value system. What we need to do is to not punish these students who go through these times of upbringing and development. We have to ensure and enact regulations that allow these students to prosper during these times and community. That goes with our community. Now, the greater good, teaching these students that any choices that are made outside the LDS church value system will be refuted and unethically disputed, mistreated actually. So the greater good, in that small community, in that large community I should say, the greater good is to uphold these standards in order to live a virtuous life and uphold good morale. The university at BYU, they need to ensure that they have standards that conduct this kind of mistreatment. So, we developed an honor code that would allow students and the system to self-regulate each other. Students will aspire for transcendent behavior in the schoolroom, as well as representing the qualities of leadership in the community being served. The values shared within the community will be respected, as well as goals that promote a community of learning, reverence, and service. For those who want, this is my works cited, and thank you very much.